Exchange rate management in India. Foreign exchange market is the market in which foreign currencies are bought and sold. Being a member of IMF, India followed the par value system of pegged exchange rate system. But when the Bretton Woods system collapsed in 1971, the rupee was pegged to pound sterling for 4 years, after which it was initially linked to the basket of 14 currencies, but later reduced to 5 currencies of India's major trading partners. Currently, India has adopted the managed exchange rate system. Par value system, 1947 to 1971. After gaining independence, India followed the par value system of the IMF, whereby the rupee's external par value was fixed at 4.15 grains of fine gold. Pegged regime, 1971 to 1992. India pegged its currency to the US dollar from August 1971 to December 1991, and to the pound sterling from December 1971 to September 1975. The period since 1991. A two-step downward adjustment of 18 to 19% in the exchange rate of the Indian rupee was made on July 1 and 3, 1991. Liberalized exchange rate management system. The Finance Minister announced the Liberalized Exchange Rate Management System (LERMS) in the budget for 1992 to 93. This system introduced partial convertibility of rupee. Under this system, a dual exchange rate was fixed under which 40% of foreign exchange earnings were to be surrendered at the official exchange rate, while the remaining 60% were to be converted at a market-determined rate. Trade-related investment measures. Under the Agreement on Trade-Related Investment Measures of the World Trade Organization, commonly known as the TRIMS Agreement, WTO members have agreed not to apply certain investment measures related to trade in goods that restrict or distort trade. The TRIMS Agreement prohibits certain measures that violate the national treatment and quantitative restrictions requirements of the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade (GATT). These are measures which are imposed on the foreign investors, the obligation to use local inputs to produce for export as a condition to obtain imported goods as inputs to balance foreign exchange, and not to export more than a specified proportion of the local production. Trade-related investment measures. TRIMS may include requirements to 1. Achieve a certain level of local content. 2. Produce locally. 3. Export a given level or percentage of goods. 4. Balance the amount or percentage of imports with the amount or percentage of exports. 5. Transfer of technology or proprietary business information to local persons. These requirements may be mandatory conditions for investment or can be attached to fiscal or other incentives. The TRIMS agreement does not cover services. All WTO member countries are parties to this agreement. This agreement went into effect on January 1, 1995. It has no expiration date. Export promotion policies in India. The Government of India has liberalized the schemes for the export-oriented units and export processing zones. Agriculture, horticulture, poultry, fisheries, and dairying have been included in the export-oriented units. Export Promotion Capital Goods Schemes (EPCGS) has been started to permit the exporters to import capital goods on concessional import duties. Under the EPCGS scheme, such importers of capital goods have to export goods of 4 times values of import within next 5 years. Establishment of the Exim Bank and SEZs promoted the export from country. FDI in retail sector in India. The Foreign Direct Investment (FDI) means cross-border investment made by a resident in one economy or in an enterprise in another economy with the aim of earning profits in the targeted country. Mostly the investment is into production, by either buying a company in the targeted country or by expanding operation of an existing business in that country. These investments can be made for many reasons, that is, to take advantage of cheaper wage rate, special investment facilities offered by the country, or the conducive atmosphere in the country. In 2004, the High Court of Delhi defined the term retail as a sale for final consumption, in contrast to a sale for further sale or processing, that is wholesale. A sale to the ultimate consumer. Thus, retailing can be said to be the interface between the producer and the individual consumer, buying for personal consumption. Types of retail industry. Organized retailing means all trading activities undertaken by licensed retailers, that is, those who are registered for sales tax, income tax, etc. These include the corporate backed hypermarkets and retail chains, and also the privately owned, large retail businesses. Unorganized retailing refers to the traditional formats of low cost retailing, for example, the local kirana shops, owner manned general stores, pan or BD shops, convenience stores, handcart and pavement vendors or patriwala, etc. FDI policy with regard to retailing in India. 1. FDI up to 100% for cash and carry, wholesale trading, and export trading allowed under the automatic route. 2. FDI up to 51% with prior government approval (FIPB) for retail trade of single brand products, subject to Press Note 3, 2006 series. 3. FDI is not permitted in multi-brand retailing in India, yet. Trade-related aspects of intellectual property rights. TRIPS covers most forms of intellectual property, including copyright, patents, geographical indications, trademarks, industrial designs, trade secrets, and exclusionary rights over new plant varieties. TRIPS came into force on 1 January 1995. The agreement provides for norms and standards in respect of following areas of intellectual property: patents, trademarks, copyrights, geographical indications, industrial designs. The TRIPS agreement provides for a minimum term of protection of 20 years counted from the date of filing. India had already implemented its obligations under Articles 70.8 and 70.9 of the TRIPS agreement. Acts related to patents. The Patents Act 1970. The Patents Amendment Act 1999. The Patents Amendment Act 2002. The Patents Amendment Act 2005. Rules pertaining to patents. The Patents Rules 2003. The Patents Amendment Rules 2005. The Patents Amendment Rules 2006. International Monetary Fund. The International Monetary Fund (IMF) is the intergovernmental organization established to stabilize the exchange rate in the international trade. It helps the member countries to improve their balance of payment condition, thorough the adequate liquidity in the international market, promote the growth of global monetary cooperation, secure financial stability, facilitate international trade. It is one of the Bretton Woods twins, which came into existence in 1945, is governed by and accountable to the 189 countries that make up its near global membership. The International Monetary Fund (IMF) and the International Reconstruction and Development Bank (IBRD) were established in July 1944, together on the basis of Bretton Woods Conference. That is why they are also known as the Bretton Woods Twins. India is the founding member of the IMF. Objectives of IMF: 1. To promote international monetary cooperation. 2. To ensure balanced international trade. 3. To ensure exchange rate stability. 4. To eliminate or to minimize exchange restrictions by promoting the system of multilateral payments. 5. To grant economic assistance to members' countries for eliminating the adverse balance of payment. 6. To minimize the imbalances in quantum and duration of international trade. World Trade Organization. The World Trade Organization, WTO, is an international organization which sets the rules for global trade. This organization was set up in 1995 as the successor of the General Agreement on Trade and Tariffs (GATT). It has 153 members. All decisions are taken unanimously, but the major economic powers, such as the US, EU and Japan, has managed to use the WTO to frame rules of trade to advance their own interests. The developing countries often complain of non-transparent procedures and being pushed around by big powers. The International Bank for Reconstruction and Development. World Bank is also known as the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, IBRD. The Second World War damaged the economies of the world. So in 1945, it was realized to concentrate on the reconstruction of that war-damaged economies. The IBRD was established in December 1945, with the IMF, on the basis of recommendations of the Bretton Woods Conference. That is reason why IMF and World Bank are called Bretton Woods twins. IBRD started working in June 1946. As on April 2019, the World Bank has 189 members. India has been borrowing from the World Bank for various projects in the area of poverty reduction, infrastructure and rural development, etc. IDA funds are one of the most concessional external loans for Government of India and are largely used in the social sector projects that contribute to the achievement of the Millennium Development Goals. The first World Bank loan to India was in 1948 of $86 billion. The debt disbursed and outstanding, as on March 2011, for IBRD is $11.28 billion, and for IDA, it is $27 billion.
Objectives of World Bank: to provide long-term capital to members' countries for economic reconstruction and development. To induce long-term capital investment for assuring BOP equilibrium and balanced development of international trade. To promote capital investment in members' countries by following ways. A. To provide guarantee on private loans or capital investment. B. If capital is not available, even after providing guarantee, then IBRD provides loans for productive activities on considerate conditions. To ensure the implementation of development projects so as to bring about a smooth transference from a wartime to peace economy.